Today, 6 out of 10 humans thrive primarily on plant-based diets. Are you going to join us or sit around and complain? Why do plants provide optimum nutrition? So we know that too. None of these things are found at all or in any significant amount in animal-based foods. The first are antioxidants. We learned about antioxidants back in 1954. 1954 at the University of Nebraska, an unlikely place for this to happen. Dr. Harmon came out and said, guess what? Why everyone gets sick and why everyone gets old prematurely is because you lack antioxidants. And why antioxidants protect you is because they prevent free radicals from aging you and getting you sick. Do you realize from 1954 till today, we haven't changed that idea? That's a fact? And where free radicals come from when you do bad things, like eat bad things that shouldn't be in your mouth, and don't sleep enough, and get under stress, and live in polluted areas, and wear polyester clothes, you kill cells. And what's left from the cell is electric, and those electrons start to spin wildly and systematically scavenge healthy cells throughout the body and kill them. What is an antioxidant? A nutrient from plant-based foods. The first ones they knew about were vitamin C and vitamin E. There's so many more today. CoQ10 is a great example. Alpha-lipoic acid is a great example. Amazing, amazing things that we see. And this is really a picture you may want to shoot or take this, because I search for the most appropriate way in concise method to show you what an antioxidant protects. So this is how it is. Prevents aging and disease. Where do you get it? Plant-based foods that are not cooked. Once you cook the food, the antioxidants are disturbed or gone. Oh, Brian, how could that be true? Because Dr. Smith at the University of Smithdom doesn't say that. Well, Dr. Smith isn't using common sense. You know if I cooked anything, it's not going to have the nutrients in it it should. How about if I take your brand new car and I smash it up? I have 3 or 4 accidents. Is it going to look exactly the same? Well, come on. Stretch your imagination. I know it's difficult because you're stuck on white potato fries. I get it. Peptides. How many of you know what a peptide is? One of the future treatments of medicine. That doctors are going to, legitimate doctors are going to be using this in the conquest of disease. And the preliminary work that's been done on this is no less than stunning. Stunning. These are proteins, amides, that you find within food. And when you combine these together, they activate the immune system and reverse anatomical disorder. You can use this from everything from autism to cancer, etc. The other night, if you listened to one of the panels with Thomas Seyfried, we talked about the potential, it's just the beginning stages, of using peptides in getting glutamine down, which is one of the feeders of all cancers. Do you follow? We can get the sugar away. We've been doing that at Hippocrates for over 40 years with cancer and other diseases. We take the sugar away, including fruit sugar, carrot juice, beet juice, etc. But the hardest one has been glutamine. The real killer of glutamine, reducer of glutamine, is going to be peptides. And also, you're going to see cells, stem cells used in this process. Enzymes. How many of you know what an enzyme is? Again, if you go to the university, they're going to be telling you it's only a protein. Well, that's part of the story, but not really the purpose of an enzyme. The outer shell of an enzyme, the structure of an enzyme, just like your outer shell, called your skin, is a protein. But what is that protein enzyme's real job? It's to carry electric to your electric body. If you look up the word enzyme in a dictionary, it's going to say the catalyst of all life. What does catalyst of all life mean? The switch that turns life on. Isn't that amazing when you think about it? And the only place you naturally get antioxidants, the only place you naturally get peptides, the only place you naturally get everything I'm now discussing is in raw plant-based food. They do not come in fried chicken. They do not come in yogurt. They do not come in any significant way in anything but plant-based foods. How about phytochemicals? I could spend the next 25 days from 9 in the morning till 9 at night giving conferences on phytochemicals. As a nutritional guy, I can assure you the most interesting and important thing ever discovered in the history of nutritional science, which is pretty young. Nutritional science only began in 1928 here in New York State at Cornell. There was no such thing as nutritional science till 1928. And a group of biologists and chemists got together and said, this is pretty important stuff. They only discovered the first nutrient in 1905. So by 1928, they said, this is important stuff. And the other night I said, and I'll repeat because it's worth repeating. Then we learned by the 1960s, this can reverse disease. The most important thing they ever discovered, starting in 1948, is phytochemicals. These are natural occurring elements within all raw plant-based foods that not only prevent but reverse every disease known to man. Let me repeat again to you. These are discovered in raw plant-based foods. And nature, God, the universe, put them there to prevent and reverse disease. And when people say, in one sentence, tell me why thousands and thousands of people have come to Hippocrates and successfully fought the aging process and successfully reversed catastrophic disease, it's because of phytochemicals. The data says, as all these doctors want, that, by the way, once you cook the plant above 115, all of these things are gone. The phytochemicals are gone. They're neutered. They're ineffective. So you can be a plant-based eater, and sadly, look at how many of the plant-based advocates age so prematurely, lack energy, because they don't have the medicine to prevent premature aging. It's not about taking one step more, let's get rid of animal foods and eat a bunch of cooked food. It's not about being moderate today. It's about doing what's right and going to the top of the mountain. And not saying, oh, I'm happy because I can see a little bit. I'm halfway up the mountain, I can see it. You don't want to see a little bit. You want to be up the top. You want to see 360 degrees. Or don't you? You want to have a half-life? Natural occurring elements that nature, God, the universe, gave you to prevent and reverse disease. And what are you doing? Saying, this is great. This is an academic process. Quite interesting. Let's go out and eat some cooked salad. Proteins. Wow, pretty important. But boy, the meat and dairy industry railroaded all of us on that one. They're giving you absurd data, telling you need 50 grams, 60 grams, 70, 80 grams of protein. And what's happening? We have kidney disorder going through the ceiling. When I was a young man, hardly did I ever see kidney disorder. Today, it is skyrocketing to the point, in the next 50 years, listen closely, it's predicted by mainstream medicine. In the next 50 years, half the population will have kidney disorder. And I'm telling you right now why. It's animal protein. And although veganism's going way up, we went up 1,000% last year, so is meat consumption, you're going to see. So is dairy consumption. Because we have a little bit of money, we want to show we're the elite too. And Dr. Smith from the University of Stupidity told us this is good for us. Because Dr. Smith is on the payroll of the meat and dairy industry. I'm on the payroll of the human race. But sadly, you're not listening to the guy you hired. Now look at how odd this one is. When we became really odd and we thought we had to eat steak to get strong and all of this nonsense, we actually started to feed the poor steer animals. Now, like you, a steer and a cow is a plant-based eater. They are not carnivores. Have you ever seen how beautiful a steer and a cow is? Those big round eyes. They're like cool jazz musicians. And we think they're going to eat meat? Do they look like they have claws? Little round things. They couldn't hurt you. So we're feeding the meat, and we end up with something called mad cow's disease. That the proteins in their plant-based bodies literally folded and started to eat proteins and muscle. And we literally created a disorder by feeding a plant-based creature animals. And guess what? We've literally created a numerous list of disorders by feeding a plant-based creature animals. And it's a fairly recent thing that we're consuming so much animal. Because the influencers in all of the capitals of the world are not the broccoli industry, not the asparagus industry, certainly not the sprout industry. It's the meat and dairy industry. And your government here in the United States, and those of you around the world, listen to how free America is. Took 200 million of your tax dollars and gave it to the dairy industry so they could advertise to you, the American public, to consume dairy. Now, how many of you voted here to give 200 million of your tax dollars to be conned by an industry you're not supporting? Raise your hand. Oh, Brian, this couldn't be true. There's nothing I tell you that I can't prove. There's nothing I will ever say that I don't have utter experience and confidence in. There's nothing that I say that I won't debate at the greatest halls and institutions of academia anywhere on the planet Earth. And by the way, I will win the debate. Because they're coming out of the scrolls of historic nonsense. I'm coming out of common sense and experience. It's time we stand up and take our place as human beings, not as a bunch of ducks following quacks. And that's really what we're doing at this point. How important is protein? It's unbelievably important. Every cell in your body is pulled together by protein. If we took all the protein away magically, you'd melt. You'd actually fall to the ground and be a big puddle of flup. I don't know what flup is, but it looks like half fat and half protein. How about vitamins? Wow. Vitamins are great, but once you cook a food, they're pretty much gone. How do people say, well, I'm pretty healthy, I'm eating a plant-based diet, but they're still starving? Talked to somebody the other day, they said, I touch something, I don't even have to hit it, and I get wounds now. That's vitamin deficiency. So you see, when people are aging, and they start to get marks really easy on their body, that's long-term vitamin deficiencies that are happening. And you could be eating a lot of organic plant-based things, but if they're not raw, you're not getting the vitamins from them. I said, well, Brian, that couldn't be true. There's nothing that I tell you I cannot prove to you. Now, this is not a comfortable conversation. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to wake you up. Do you follow me? And being moderate may have suited you so far, but I want it not to suit you anymore. I want you to say, wait a minute. There's possibly one step or two step or five step more I've got to take. Even though I'm climbing up stairs that are steep, it's worth going up those stairs. Essential elements that support tissue creation and bodily function. Vitamins. Go back again. 1954, Dr. Harmon said, what prevents you from dying and what prevents you from aging prematurely are antioxidants. First two he named were vitamin E and vitamin C. And there's a lot more. How many of you know vitamin D? If I had lectured to you 15 years ago, I would have taught you the wrong thing, not intentionally. Because everything I knew and everything I thought was that a vitamin D was a vitamin. And lo and behold, we found out, nope, it's a hormone, much more important. And our medical team now offers an extraordinary form of vitamin D for people in the conquest of major diseases. Because we have Lots of experience with this now. And we start to know, as I wrote about in my book, Life Force, that hormones are an extraordinarily sophisticated language of communication between one cell and another cell. And if you lack vitamin D, cells cannot communicate with one another, so they tend to do things like mutate. But we can come back to that some other time. So any of a various organic substance that we call elements that are vitamins. First vitamin ever discovered, when again? 1905, vitamin B. Minerals, wow, are they important? Now, we always talk about minerals in a way that is structural, and yes, it's important for that. Your bones and your skeleton, your teeth, all of that, incredibly important for minerals. But they lie to you about those things too. I offer a highly sophisticated nutritional profile for people, and I've looked at 17,500, of which the majority, 65-70%, are women, and I found out only 1 out of 125 of you lack calcium. Calcium is not a large deficiency. But again, if you go back to the dairy industry, the moo industry as they call it, they tell you better drink lots of milk because it has calcium. And by the way, the milk in calcium is large molecule structure, cannot be digested by the human body. And if you compare it to arugula, if you know what I'm speaking about, is a weed. You can go to cold climates, tropical climates, a weed grows all over the place when it's sunny, and it has 8 times more, but it's usable calcium, gram for gram, than milk. But they don't want you to know. Free calcium. Free calcium. And by the way, arugula is great. How many of you like arugula salads? There you go. You're getting your calcium. Just eat them all the time. Now, in my presentation the other day, I explained 3.5 billion years ago, life began as we know it. And this explosion happened, and when the explosion happened, stars were created, and when stars created, the 115 elements you're looking at now started. Matter of fact, what your sun, the star, is made out of are these 115 elements. And your body, in part, is made of these 115 elements. Isn't that amazing? So you came out of nothingness and are now, along with vitamins and peptides and phytochemicals and all of these wonderful nutrients, electric charge. And your bioelectric body, your biofrequency body, requires these minerals to be the literal wiring system that carry electromagnetic frequency from one. We actually call them electrolytes inside of the cell. Now, sadly, the biologists and biochemists don't put 2 and 2 together, but why we call them electrolytes is because they propel and carry and unify electric. And if we had a magic switch and shut your electric off, immediately what would happen to you? Kaput. Finito. End of show. So we want those minerals. And one thing I can tell you by looking at people for a long time, hundreds of thousands, a lot of us lack minerals. Why? Because it's not in the soil anymore. And even most organic raw food doesn't have adequate minerals because they've been growing where? In inadequate soil. Denatured soil doesn't make natured plants. So this is why we should consider, as we teach people at Hippocrates, to take extraordinarily high nutrition, like algae, most minerals in the world. Grow plants, grow sprouts. Guess what? The sprouts you have control in your own home, in the middle of winter, in your kitchen window, using good soil that you actually compost in your backyard or in your garage, or as Ann Wigmore did in her 3rd floor apartment in the middle of Boston, in bins. The answer is not no. The answer is yes, how can I do it? You follow me? No is a convenient way to be lazy. Nope, don't want to do. Nope, don't want to do that. You ever notice a 2-year-old says no all the time? Guess what? 2-year-olds don't say no nearly as much as 40, 50, 60-year-olds. Most of you say no without saying no. It's about time you learn the other word, the Y word. Yes. Oh my God, now I said yes, I've got to do something. So these are incredibly important for your bioelectric wiring system, the way your mind works, your heart, your brain. You don't have minerals, you're in trouble.